Big spoiler warning. This is literally a place at the very end of Endwalker where we're doing the interview. So, you know, don't watch it if you haven't made it that far. Thanks. And we're live. Okay, who am I talking to today?
This is Jordan Dynastis.
All right. And how long you been playing the game for, Jordan?
I have been playing, if I recall correctly, I started around Stormblood. And I started because, the free trial. It suckered me in.
Hmm.
And I loved it immediately. And so I subscribed immediately. And that's how long I've been playing. I've been playing on and off as well. Took the usual breaks when you had to take some breaks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You-
It's good to take a break for most people.
yeah, usually between the content and whatnot.
Yeah, it's at least this game doesn't force you to log in every day like some of them to, stay up to date with things. So it's pretty friendly about that.
Yes. And it's perfect. It's perfect that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have enough to do as adults. So
Oh gosh. Yep. Totally
being
hear
able to
you.
take that break is really helpful. Um,
Yeah.
what is it? What class do you like to play in the game? Do you have one main class, or you kind of like do multiple?
Yeah, so I only have two classes leveled up properly.
Hmm.
And by properly, I mean I still haven't done any of the extra content, the extra MSQ content after Endwalker. But I do play Paladin most. When I don't feel like using my brain, I'll go to Bard. Yeah.
That's fair. I think I do the same thing. I main a DPS class because I don't like using my brain, and then if I do want to be actively involved, I'll be either a healer or a tank. But DPS is definitely the sort of coast by class on some of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I could never get into healing though, so that's a hard one for me.
It's not that bad once you get used to it, honestly. I thought it was going to be worse than it was, especially if you start with one of the like beginning healing classes. So you start as like a white mage, for instance, where you sort of like work your way up.
Mhm.
If you try to start with Sage or something, yeah, you're probably not going to have a good time as your first healer class. Not that Sage is bad, but starting at level 70 is not the best for learning.
Yeah, because then you don't get all your rotations down right away and all of that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, and I mentioned it in a different interview, but if you do really, just for some reason, if the Sage class just really appeals to you, take it into Palace of the Dead first or something. That way you start at level 1 and you just unlock your skills as you go in that dungeon.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So if you've been playing since around Stormblood, how long of a break did you take?
So I believe the only breaks I really take is when the expansion is done, and then I don't do any of the like extra stuff.
Right.
Like once the main, story is done, I usually just coast or I stop playing at all. And then when the next expansion comes along, then I'll try to breeze through the extra content. So I don't really do a lot of the alliance raids.
Hmm.
I definitely I don't want to say I don't have time to do all of them, but time is hard to come by. So I'm really in for the story and the social stuff, all like the extra, you know, hard difficulty content. That's a little beyond me.
That's all right. The and just to throw it out there with that comment at the end there, the alliance raids and like the normal raids aren't really that bad. I had the impression way early on that alliance raids were going to be like hard content, and I kind of scared myself more than I need to in my early days, and so I didn't attempt them for years.
That's
Um,
fair.
and it turns out that they're actually really easy for the most part.
Well, yeah, that's the beautiful thing is
Yeah,
when other people know exactly what they're doing and
right.
I don't have to worry, then that's okay. But I still got to put in like 40 minutes. It's like, oh
It
man.
is, yeah, it is a time commitment. Unless you're doing like the first Alliance raids, the Crystal Tower ones, then yeah, you're spending probably 40 minutes for an Alliance raid. The most of them are pretty long, and then you get the near raids and Shadowbringers, and they're like 45 or 50. It just depends.
Yep, it was definitely the near raids that kind of turned me off.
Yeah,
It was long, and getting to them was long too. All the
um,
quests.
they're very long. Um, Now, what so if you played Paladin mostly and you played through Endwalker and everything, I mean, that was kind of the poster boy class for Endwalker.
Yeah.
So I found that sometimes people's main classes sort of affect how they feel about expansions. I don't know if that was the case for you or not, but what was your favorite expansion to play through?
Okay, so full disclosure, I
Hmm.
actually didn't play through Heavensward. And I know a lot of people are like, what the hell's wrong with you?
What have you done?
Um, yeah, and just to kind of preface it, when I started playing in Stormblood, right, I had to
Hmm.
go through AIR, and I just couldn't do all that slog of the 100 quests after,
Okay.
right? And I really wanted to catch up to play with my friends then, and so I bought the skip. So I didn't play through Heavensward. I really did enjoy Stormblood, but I think what brought it all home, it probably was in between Endwalker and maybe Shadowbringers.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
These are both
In
very
terms of,
solid.
yeah, like content wise, I think story wise, of course, Endwalker is the one to go for.
Hmm.
It ties everything up, so I'll go with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I could agree with that. The 10-year story wrapping up in Endwalker was something that I was internally I was a little bit afraid when before Endwalker came out because honestly, like the job of just tying up all these loose ends for 10 years worth of story seemed almost impossible to do correctly. And I
Mhm.
thought for sure that by the end of it I'd be disappointed in something because it's just a lot to do. But I wasn't. And that was amazing to me. That was a great job on their part that they managed to do it all really well and end it kind of in a way that I wasn't necessarily expecting.
Mm.
And just, I'm going to put a spoiler warning ahead of all this because obviously where we're sitting, which we'll get into in a little bit, but the idea that the whole time you're kind of building up Zodiac as this big bad thing that has to be taken care of, but then he's like level 83 trial, and then he's done.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And you got 7 more levels still of questing, and you're like, what the hell's going to happen now? And then you find out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So
that
it,
was a
it didn't it
surprise.
didn't hit that it didn't hit that for you.
Hmm?
It was
No, no,
different.
no. It's not that it didn't hit that. It's that I was surprised. Like it was a pleasant surprise. It was like, oh shit, they threw me for a loop, and now I'm like invested. Like, what's gonna happen now? Like, how are they gonna throw something new and resolve it within like 7 levels? And they did it,
Hmm.
and they did it in a way that I liked. So,
Yes.
um,
Well, that's
right,
kudos to the writing team for sure.
right, yeah, no, it's a good writing team. They're amazing at what they do. Speaking of, we're sitting here in Ultima Thule.
Yeah.
Uh, why is this your favorite area?
So one, the freaking song, I mean, it
Yeah.
just kills me, you know? When you go through that, as you were saying, the 10-year journey,
Hmm.
the payoff is just incredible. And so for me, the character, I actually really liked Alize a lot.
Yeah.
She showed a lot of growth. She showed a lot of care, compassion, all that stuff. And when we were in Shadowbringers,
Hmm.
when she was doing her best to save that one character, and you had to go in and you had to kill that character.
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about.
I do,
And
yes. And anyone that's ever played through Shadowbringers should remember because that scene of her transforming is etched into your mind forever.
it is. And I don't know if it was the voice acting or it was just the gravity of it all. You're trying to save this. You're trying to do everything you can to make things better. And still, everything you've done up to that point, it wasn't enough. Just
Right.
wasn't enough. And so, for that character, for Alize, to go through all of that and still have that same care and love for you as the main character. I think that was just something I really resonated with.
Yeah.
And so that's why I chose this point. It's because this is the last time I see her and, the other Alize. Yeah, and you go off and you do your thing. And
Okay.
this is it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This is the big like point where everything kind of comes to a head. They're the last ones. Alice and Alphino are the last ones to go, and then
Mhm.
you walk up. You do the walk where all the voices from the past start talking to you. It's a big moment. It's probably the biggest moment for me in Walker, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah, yeah, and that scene you're talking about with the well, the overall scene that you're talking about, Shadowbringers, is one of the best and most memorable scenes in Shadowbringers. The transformation, and then the dungeon afterwards, where you do have to. She's like the second boss in that dungeon that you have to kill.
Right, and the thing is, you at first, I didn't catch that it was her
Yeah.
until I'm like, "Wait a minute,
Hmm.
the name looks really familiar."
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know if it was the name or it was just something about it. Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. She if you go into that dungeon with the trust party of NPCs and you bring Alice, she'll say something. Uh
Mm.
yeah.
Oh gosh. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
I've shed enough tears already.
Right. Yeah, no, it was rough. That but Shadowbringers just in general was really good about that, just bringing out the emotions and making things hit hard and really just driving home the weight of the things that were happening to these people, and
Right.
kind of driving home the hopelessness that they all felt because they were all trying so hard and it was just getting worse and worse.
Yes, and I think this goes back to your original question, which
Mm,
was, did my class have any kind of, special things? Did I resonate with anything? Yeah, absolutely. Right. As a paladin,
yeah.
my job is to protect people. And
Mm,
if I can't do that, then I have failed.
yeah.
And so, yeah, that was really emotional. A lot of great memories playing that.
No, it was a good, yeah, it was a good playthrough. I still say the Shadowbringers is probably my favorite expansion, just because
Yeah,
of things like that. There were just so many of those types of moments just scattered throughout that it stands apart from the rest of them for me.
yeah, it's
Um,
hard to disagree with that.
yeah, yeah. Now, if you're a big Alice fan, like she spends a lot of time with you in Stormblood too.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, how did
that's
you
right.
feel about Stormblood as an expansion then? Because Stormblood doesn't get brought up as often as most of the other expansions.
So, yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's the first expansion I truly played through because it
Mm.
didn't go through Heaven's Ward. And so maybe my expectation wasn't so high because I'm not comparing it to the critically acclaimed Heaven's Ward.
Really
And
should
so I
experience that
enjoyed
sometime.
You know, and that's the tricky thing because now I know all the spoilers.
Well,
I've gone back through whatever that New Game Plus mode was,
mhm,
and maybe the payoff is just not as much. I enjoyed it. It
okay,
was very confusing for me though, with the whole dragons and the different names of the dragons and the different families, and to me it was a little confusing.
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, for Stormblood, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. The locations, the characters. Um, I didn't find that it was too. Some people say it was just not focused enough.
Mhm,
I think it was pretty focused in terms of the story was tight. It went back and forth. Yes, I was able to follow through. And how can you not love this classic story of overthrowing the empire?
yeah, I don't feel like the story was unfocused. I never really got that impression. Um,
Hmm.
if there was any time that the story was even slightly unfocused, I feel it would have been back in Realm Reborn. Like, if that was the case,
Yes.
yeah, if we had to pick one, I'd say it'd be that one. But at that point, they were just working who knows however many hour days to try to remake the entire game in like a year and a half or 2 years. So I
Oh
can't
yeah.
really fault them too much for that one. But
Nope. You really can't.
no. But yeah, if any of them were unfocused, I'd say it'd be that one. I don't think that the anything that follows is unfocused. You might have your preferences. Like people obviously have preferences. Everybody likes Heaven's Ward for the most part. Shadowbringers is just like the most popular choice, and then in Walker, most people like that too. Stormblood is the
Yeah.
only one in there that's kind of like iffy for some people, but Stormblood really hit for me. I enjoyed the story there.
Ah, what about it? What about it was really big for you?
So, Stormblood was the first time that I felt like the solo duties that you get thrown into were really stand out. You know how
Yes.
like it makes you do your own duty by yourself, no party or anything like that with a bunch of NPCs or something.
Yep.
Um, the one especially on the Asm step, that was the one that really stands out to me out of all of them. The big
Mm.
fight where you're basically playing like capture the flag.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that one.
yeah, that was a big turning point for me where I'm like, you know what, this expansion is pretty cool. Like,
Yeah, and man, the different factions and characters, and they all have to come together.
yes.
And of course, there's the hilarious, forget his name, but he's like he's simping hard for Stola.
Oh
And she's just
yeah,
not.
Magnai. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that was hilarious.
she calls him
Um,
little son, and he gets all offended.
yeah, great writing, right?
Right.
Yeah. And oh, Stormblood. So the one, when you go up against spoilers again, when you go up against Xenos,
Yes.
and he's literally invincible. And I remember playing through that,
Hmm.
and I was literally scared. Like, how am I supposed to beat this guy? And I'm like, is this a thing? Is it one of those things where I'm not supposed to beat him, or is it?
Right.
And for whatever reason, I was really invested into it, and it was a heavy, heavy battle for me because I did feel very helpless, and it did feel like, as a role playing paladin, again,
Hmm.
who's supposed to protect things, I can't stand up to this guy. Who the hell is this guy? Holy crap! I don't know. I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool.
That. Yeah. So for me, because I did play through Heaven's Ward and stuff, like by at least the impression that I got when you play through Heaven's Ward was like by the end of Heaven's Ward, you kind of felt almost unstoppable. It was like, okay, you just killed this giant dragon that's been fighting a war for hundreds upon hundreds of years, and you got powered up by the dragon's eye and all sorts of stuff, and you've beaten so many things to the point where King Thornton was actually like afraid of you by the end and like thinking you're
Mm.
some sort of monster. Um, to you start Stormblood and then you run into this just what at the time just seemed like a random Garlean guy, and he just
Mhm.
kicks your ass and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
It was like being smacked down to earth. You think you're invincible, and then you just get like smacked back down. Be like, no, you're not invincible. Like you're gonna have to work
Right.
harder, basically.
Absolutely. And the fact that he looks so badass too was like, damn. Okay,
Yeah,
you're that guy. Yeah.
yeah. But he also at the same time just didn't care. Like he was just bored.
Right.
The fact that you bored
Right.
him also was just like, eh. He
Yeah.
just didn't care, and he only got interested when he realized you like chipped a part of his like armor or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
And that rivalry just kept on going. I loved that. And again, the payoff, right?
Yeah, the payoff. So I was one of the people that like when Stormblood ended, I wasn't really sold on Xenos at first. Like I he kind of like it kind of made me mad that they went the whole like untouchable villain thing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, well, by the end of it, the payoff is supposed to be that you killed this guy, and it just shows you how much stronger you've come over the course of your journey fighting all these battles and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I mean that's a good storytelling trope, and that's fine, but that's over now. Like I didn't think he was anything special. But
Mm.
when and then when he got teased at the end of Shadowbringers, like in the patch content for Endwalker, I was kind of
Yeah.
disappointed at first. I'm like, man, Xenos is back. Like, really? Like,
You wanted a new villain, maybe.
I did, yeah. I did want a new villain. And I thought that Xenos was going to do more Stormblood stuff, where he'd be, like, invincible and, again. I thought it was going to be, like, because the only thing that I didn't like about Shadowbringers was Ranjit. Because
Oh
Ranjit did the
God.
same thing, where he was, like, just this random old dude that was really strong and was invincible for his first fight, basically.
Right.
Um,
So it almost brought you back to that
it
what you
did.
were going through, like, oh, I don't like this guy at all.
It did,
He's
yeah. It brought me back to that, and I'm like, I don't like this trope that much. Like, this is kind of disappointing. And I thought they were going to do that again, but then they didn't. he grew and he became a lot more interesting. And by the end of Endwalker, I really like Xenos. Like now, I'm a Xenos fan. So
There you go.
they've turned it
So the
around.
writers knew. They knew what they were doing all along.
They did, yeah. It's I should learn by now. I'm going through the same cycle now. Like I'm looking forward to Dawn Trail. Have you watched like the trailers and have you done the benchmark and stuff for Dawn Trail?
Yeah, I've done the benchmark. It looks very interesting in that.
Mm,
So I played Final Fantasy XI back
yeah.
then, and one of the expansions it's basically the Dawn Trail setting and all of that stuff,
Hmm.
the Mamulja and all those enemies.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to revisiting that, whether it's an homage or whatnot. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the Alliance raid that they're bringing in, right? Is the one from 11?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As someone that didn't play 11, that's kind of lost on me, but I'm happy for the people that did because I know there's a lot of 11 fans out there. The game's been out for like 20 years, so
Oh
and it's still
yeah,
up.
and it's still going.
Yeah, it's still going. So I mean, that's impressive, and the fact that they still feel like, hey, you know, we can throw like a few references out there, a few locations or something like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I love that they can throw in like FF9 in there, in the same
Yeah,
expansion as FF11, right? And so the nostalgia is still there
yeah,
for any fan.
yeah. That was what I really liked about the Stormblood like normal raids too.
Oh,
The
Doma.
no, the normal raids, the Sigmascape, Alphascape, and stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
because they're basically for the most part, they're mostly just throwback references to other Final Fantasy games. There's Chaos from FF1. There's the Phantom Train from FF6. There's Kefka from FF6.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
X Death from FF5. Uh,
So this is where I feel like I've missed a whole bunch because I don't
mm,
think I did a lot of that.
okay.
And my favorite Final Fantasy growing up was FF6. So
Uh,
when I heard that there was Kefka somewhere, I
mm.
tried to figure out how to get there, and I never did. I don't. Maybe I played through it once, or maybe not. But anyway,
Well,
something I
yeah.
got to look into.
Yeah, definitely look into it because the scapes, the Alpha Scape, Delta Scape, Sigma Scape, normal raids, and Stormblood are my favorite normal raid series because I'm a
Wow.
huge fan of FF games and there's just so many throwbacks in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Like so many. You've got the Phantom Train, you've got Kefka, you've got I don't know if you remember this boss from FF6, but the painting boss
The who to what now?
where you fight the painting.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that's in there.
That was an Hauser's auction house. No, not the
Mm.
auction house, but yeah, he's there.
Yep, that's in there. There's another boss that's just basically like a robot thing, but then it throws back to other FF6 enemies like Ultros and the guy that's at the top of the stairs in Zozo, the like buff monk guy
Yeah,
whose name
there's
I
a lot
forgot.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a good raid series. I highly recommend.
All right. So that means I will before Dawn Trail have to do all of that again.
Yeah. Now, speaking of doing content, what for? I mean, since you've been playing since Stormblood, you've had plenty of chances to do things. Do you think is your best achievement in the game, or like your favorite thing that you've done?
That is a great question. And as cliche as it sounds, um, the prize was the friendships we made along the way. It really is. Because again, I don't have a lot of time to play through all the stuff.
Hmm,
And so achievements may not be a big thing for me here in terms of game mechanics or like beating certain bosses.
right.
Yeah, I'm proud that I slogged through some of the content, which was pretty much a slog at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really, I think if I was to walk away from this game and what do I remember most, what was I most proud of was really just being able to chat with people, hang out with people, and just have relationships with strangers I've never met before. I think that's really why I play the game, to be honest with you. I need an outlet for my real life. I need to meet other people.
That's fair. That's fair, and it is good. It's good about that. It provides a lot of venues for you to get out there and meet people. And I've said it before in other interviews, but the people, the community that's around this game is pretty nice for the most part. Um,
Mhm.
Definitely one of the better ones I've ever been a part of. It's not a typical online community where things go wrong and people start shouting insults or something like that. So
Yep. Yep.
it's been pretty friendly. So not a. I guess there's a whole lot left to talk about. Honestly, what outside of the game, what is it that you like to do?
Outside of the game, what do I like to do? In my current stage of life, I have 4 kids, so there's not a lot that I can do because most of my time is taken up by them.
Okay.
But if I had it my way, right, if time was not an issue, I would probably, I, here's the thing. I've heard this question before in all the other interviews,
Hmm.
and I still draw blanks as to what I'd love to do because I think most of it is just being in relationship with people is what I
Yeah.
enjoy. So whether it's just hanging out with friends or encouraging and giving hope to people who are going through some stuff that I've been going through, I think to me that's a big. It's not something I look forward to doing all the time,
Hmm.
but I find that very. I don't know. It's nice. It's valuable. It's productive. It's
Cathartic.
fruitful. Sure, and maybe that's just part of what I do
Hmm.
in life. You know, but yeah, I like to play with the kids, play like video games with them. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, as like a sort of a final thought here, is there any like anything else people should know about you, or any final like words you'd have for anybody that might be watching this?
Uh, in my line of work, we always are conscious of who is behind the person. Like, really, who's behind the person. So, if you're upset about someone, it's okay, man. Just take it easy. They're probably just having a bad day. Right? Let's spread love. Let's spread positivity. Spread some hope. And that's what I kind of want to do with the rest of my life, especially when I'm playing these games, right?
Hmm.
Just talking to people and just listening to their story, keeping them going. Yeah, I like doing that.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that's a good spot to end it on. That's a nice high note. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. I want to thank you for coming on and doing the interview. It was good talking to you. And
Yeah, you're welcome.
yeah, if you ever decide to unlock the Sigmascape raids or something, you need somebody to go with, just hit me up because that's my
I
favorite
will
raid
do.
series.
Okay, I know who to call now.
All right.
Perfect.
All right. Well,
Yeah, hey,
thank you.
thanks for doing this as well.
Yeah, thank you.